Welcome back in, guys, to the Chronic Couch with Eric and Chris. We are wrapping up our first season of the Chronic Couch. It's been quite the ride, and I think today we'll kind of just give you guys some updates, and kind of go through what we learned, the community that we've formed and that we're connecting with, and what we look forward to for the next season to come.
Yeah, it has obviously been a journey, both physically and technologically. We've learned a lot. And it's something that we hope you all have enjoyed, honestly, because it's been our journey for us. Hopefully, it's been helpful to people out there in some aspect. And we're excited again, like Eric mentioned, to what season two is going to look like. And as we bring on guests and bring in sponsors and all these different types of things. But what we wanted to do was have a recap episode for season one, just because we feel as though there's going to be people out there who may be seeing this for the first time. And this will give them context to know if they want to go back and get more information that we've already spoken about. So, a short recap of season one. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things in 5 episodes. So,
Yeah,
I
we
think
did.
what are some of the standout things that you think, if you had to summarize your top three conversations that we brought up this season?
I think for me, the most standout topic, or the takeaway for me, has been that I feel physically and mentally better, than when we first started. When was that? A couple months ago.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the irony of it, is that I feel better. And, as we'll talk about some of our health updates in a minute. But I think, if that's kind of a blanket statement, is that I just feel better. So whether that came from us just talking this shit out, us conversing with each other, it's also been great hearing from, random people about what they're going through. And I don't know, the feeling of isolation isn't so isolating anymore. I feel more well-rounded in this space of injury and post operations and navigating through the journey of chronic pain. What about you?
Well, first, I want to take this second to remind everybody. And again, we're doing this because this might be someone's first time watching the Chronic Couch. So you gave me the destination, right? Give me base camp. What happened and who are you?
Well, I was a former athlete. I was a gymnast for nearly 20 years, and injury upon injury, ruptured Achilles, torn knee, elbow, pretty much everything from head to toe. But my spine definitely took the most brutality and the most impact from all the years of pounding. And I can't even remember my injuries. I herniated my discs. I herniated my L4, L5, and I also had a few bulging discs, and that resulted in getting a microdiscectomy. And then I reherniated a couple years later. I was supposed to get a disc replacement. And the night before, my insurance denied the surgery. We had a great episode where we talked about insurance. And so if you guys haven't seen that episode, you should definitely go watch that. You could definitely learn a thing or two from what Chris and I have gone through with our respective insurances. And so I ended up having another discectomy after that surgery was denied. And so I've been on the road to recovery since that. That surgery was in September. And that surgery did get infected. So I had to have another surgery to kind of go in and clean that up. But I've kind of just been weighing my options, and, whether that's been through massage therapy, or some of the coping mechanisms and methods that we talked about, ice baths, Epsom salt baths, And one of my updates that I will give to you and people who are listening and watching is, after a couple years of me denying and not wanting to try an antidepressant that can help with chronic pain, which actually I hadn't really been told up until lately.
Mhm.
I finally started it because, back up real quick, the stress of not only life, but this injury in particular, it started to manifest in other areas of my body, and it was causing other complications, which made me seek out other specialists who we are going to have on. We're going to have a specialist on, a urologist, and he was kind of the final straw where he was like, you should try this antidepressant. It's called duloxetine, which is generic for Cymbalta. And if you guys can remove the stigma, which is what I had to do, of taking an antidepressant, um, I've it's only been this is the wild part. It's only been 8 days, and both of my problems, one problem being my back pain in general, which is mostly nerve pain. Nerve pain meaning like tingling and stinging and stabbing going up and down my legs and into my hands. And then the other issue, which affected my urology area, I don't even know what to call it, my reproductive organs, um, that has also improved. Now, the crazy part about that is I was told that I should give it at least 3 weeks, but probably 6 to 8 weeks. Now, everyone's body's different. I have a quick metabolism, and I haven't followed up with the doctor yet. But since taking this medicine, of course, the first 3 days were rough. I got sick, and you go a little off your rocker, just a little bit, like you're tired and anxious, all those things. But I got through those 3 days, and I feel better. And so that just goes to show, we kind of talked about, while going through what Chris and I and whoever's listening and watching are going through is physically taxing and challenging and painful, it also affects your mental game. The two are so tied together. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in my journey with this.
Okay. No, I mean, well, first of all, that's obviously great news because, the high metabolism or fast metabolism is a blessing in this situation because you get straight to the point. Your body's like, I've had enough. We're gonna get you 8 days and we're gonna get it rocking. So I'm happy to hear that because again, I know both online and offline what you've been going through. And it's just good to hear that something out there is working. And I think a lot of things that you see commercials for, because I've seen commercials for Cymbalta and that, at the end they always try to sneak in those side effects and with the fast speaking and all that stuff.
That's what I
But
was digging on.
yeah, yeah. So it's not always going to be as easy as what they're prescribing the drugs to be because again, there's going to be side effects. But again, they're getting approved for a reason, and in your case, it's obviously helping. So obviously, you got some more weeks to go on that, but it's something that I think is extremely important for people to be able to destigmatize with antidepressants because it's not what they were perceived as in the 80s was like, oh, this person's crazy and this person's schizophrenic or this person's X, Y, and Z. No, these drugs have real life benefits, and in your case, immediate and long lasting benefits. So,
And
I mean, that's all good news to me.
yeah, thank you, man. And if you Google duloxetine, if anyone out there is struggling with chronic nerve pain or fibromyalgia, or there's a list of things, Google duloxetine. I'm obviously not a doctor. Chris isn't a doctor, but talk to your doctor if you're experiencing these symptoms. I had a random person who has joined our community on the Chronic Couch DM me who's going through it. And of course, I prefaced with saying I'm not a doctor, but you should ask your doctor about this medicine, duloxetine, to help with all the nerve pain, because I can say it till the cows come home. The nerve pain the has been the most debilitating thing for me. And we've talked about how much we love to walk, and I've become addicted to walking. And up until I started taking this medicine, I was walking a lot, but I was in excruciating pain while walking, and I would say that has significantly improved. So I'll stop rambling about my situation. We'll pass the mic back over to you, Chris, if you can kind of
No,
walk us through your situation.
hey, listen, there's never a time limit on good news. Let me start by saying that. So I appreciate the fact that you were passing the baton, but I first want to tell you, hey man, I'm proud of you. Somebody who, again, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when we first got this racket, I saw how much pain you were in. We talked about it. So to see you feeling a lot better, just physically, mentally, emotionally, 9, 12 weeks down the road, like this is good news for me to hear.
For sure.
But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and again, it's been years of trying to find a solution, and that's probably the most challenging part. Is you start to feel like you're gonna lose hope, or you do slide into that mentality. And so my advice is just like try everything. Give it your all, because on the other side there's a great sunset waiting. And I'm not saying my road's over. I don't want to jinx anything, but you know give it all you got.
That is the advice people need to hear. Because again, it's a lot of people want to give up just before they get to the diamonds, but they pickaxing away at everything, right? And I think that's a lesson to be learned for anybody in life is you could almost be there and you decide to give up and you'll never know what you're truly capable of, or you're that far away from your fortune that you've been seeking this entire time.
Yes, sir.
So for me, it's been a little bit of a different road. Obviously, this. The past 3 weeks have been quite the journey, physically, mentally. But 3 weeks ago, I had a nerve decompression surgery. So that's the last time y'all heard from us. And that was the surgery that I was alluding to at the end of the episode. But similar to what I asked you about, I'm just going to remind people of what happened with my situation. So last September, I was playing basketball with some friends and I had a non-contact freak injury, just playing it wrong, and my knee dislocated. And I recently found out that knee dislocations actually represent 0.02 of all orthopedic injuries. So there's one knee dislocation per 100,000 people. So you take that
Wow.
knee, isn't that crazy? You
Wow.
take that one knee dislocation, and then you add on everything else that happened to me with this situation. And it is the chances of this happening to somebody with everything that happened was probably 1 in a million. Like no joke. All of my surgeons are agreeing with that. There's nothing that points to this being an injury from basketball. This has all the markings of a traumatic car accident, a motorcycle accident, high impact, high speed, high everything. Not not me just dribbling a basketball and running. But the injury itself, in addition to the knee dislocation, was a popliteal artery occlusion. So I blocked the femoral artery at the popliteal section where it's responsible for the blood flow to your leg. So it cut off the blood flow to my leg, and I had to have emergency surgery to pretty much get a vein taken out and use that as a graft. So now I have a graft in my leg that serves as that artery because that artery is no longer working. In addition to that, the structural damage of a knee dislocation, ACL torn, LCL torn, popliteus tendon also torn. One of my three major hamstrings is torn, your biceps femoris, and nerve pain. So that is something that is I at the time we thought compressed my peroneal nerve, which is responsible for your dorsiflexion and your feeling from your shin all the way down to your toes on the top side. But as of late, we found out that it was obviously a lot more damage than a simple stretch or compression. So fast forward to where we were a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
had the nerve decompression, and the surgery itself, the procedure didn't work because there was nothing that could be done for that nerve. The internal scarring on that nerve was way too much. So medically speaking, there was about 4.7 inches of scarring inside the nerve itself. So there was no way that any electricity was going to get through, and there was no way that they could decompress it or free it from any of the surrounding tissues for it to ever work. So fortunately, my surgeon, super forward thinking, she said, "Look, we need to get you in ASAP because we need to do a nerve transfer." And I had my nerve transfer last Thursday. So it's been a journey, man. Nerve transfer is insane. So from an update standpoint, what she did was she went in and she took some of my tibial nerve, which is responsible for me flexing my big toe. She took some of that and rerouted it to the nerve that's responsible for my dorsiflexion. So the anterior tip, she plugged it up to the peroneal nerve. So now I can get some of that dorsiflexion back. And now there's about 3 to 4 inches for the nerve to travel. So each inch is a month for it to get back to its motor plate so I can have that dorsiflexion restored and I can move my foot and I don't have foot drop anymore, in theory. So
Okay.
that's kind of the quick and dirty update of it. Like I said, I'm not going to get too into it maybe in the future as we talk about this in more episodes, but today's more of just a recap to kind of give y'all the journey of where we've been and kind of where we are now. And I think it's just been similar to Aaron, just a journey of just showing up every day, even when it's tough, because we've been able to do episodes in person. We've had to do episodes like this where, like, and today in my example, obviously I'm not doing much moving around because I'm 7 days fresh off a nerve transfer surgery. So we appreciate y'all out there being with us and kind of just rocking with us, whatever the medium. Obviously, it still goes out to the channel. It just looks so different. So we're not sitting at each other looking at each other. But that's, that, again, every day with injuries, especially chronic ones, is going to be a different story. So we're making it work for us. So that's just another case where you should make it work for you. But we mentioned something before
Hmm.
about the community that we've built in these 5 episodes. Now, I've actually talked to more people about back pain than I have about my own situation. Again, not even with the rarity of my situation, but just I feel like back pain is one of those things. And luckily, because we have this, I've been able to say, "Oh, you should go talk to Eric. Eric's been dealing with this." So, without obviously going into people's extreme details, how's that experience been for you to know that a couple months ago we created this space for this specific reason, and now people are like, "Oh, damn, I need to go talk to Eric and Chris."
I mean, that's why we did it, right? It's like I said, the feeling of isolation and I wish when I was laying in bed for a total of 10 months, I wish I had someone, something, somewhere to go, something to lean onto. And that's what makes this worth it and fulfilling. And I want to help people. And so yeah, when people slide in the DM and they tell me their situation, um and when there have been days that I just wanted to not keep going, that I hear about other people's situations who have been dealing with this for over 10 years, close to 15 years of laying in bed for over a year. um I think it's good, of course I don't want anyone to be suffering, but if we can create a platform and a community to shed light on injuries like this, you know, that's what it's all about. This is all about community and outreach and helping people. And yeah, it's been rewarding, plain and simple.
And that's the simple word enough.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it is. And I think I can echo that same sentiment because when we embark on this journey, you really never know how things are going to go, right? We can put out this content, we can say what we want to say and just have it live in the ether of the internet on YouTube and amongst the billions of videos that live on YouTube. But the fact that people out there are finding us as that needle in a haystack or glimmer of hope is the most important reason why this is so valuable to us and to our community. So as we look ahead to next season, and especially as we bring on more guests, it's super important for us to continue to have not only these real conversations, but also tapping into tapping into conversations in the communities of the guests that we bring on. Because with the guests that we have lined up, these injuries are going to be very different. Some of
Right.
these injuries are going to be very radical. They're going to be very jarring for our listeners out there. So we appreciate y'all rocking with us, and I think the y'all can stop listening to us so much. I know y'all tired of hearing our voices and looking at our faces. So in season 2, we promise more guests than just us. But if I had to kind of just put a bow on it, man, just a last couple questions just for everybody out there to kind of get a sense of where we're at. What would you say is the one thing you've learned this season?
Oh my God. The one thing that I learned this season. Hmm. I don't know. What have you learned? Maybe help me. Maybe I can piggyback off something. I've learned so much. Uh,
Mhm. I, I'd say probably the importance of I actually have two. So I'm gonna get a little greedy to give you a little time to think about it.
right.
Right. But the first one, and we talked about this in a previous episode, namely the insurance one, was to be an advocate for yourself because you got to keep going, especially when you get into the insurance space and with your doctors. I spent the last 5 months not taking no for an answer. So I wasn't leaving doctor's offices until I got a plan of action or I felt as though I was in a comfortable space to leave, knowing when I was going to see somebody next that was going to be progressive for the journey. The second one was kind of getting away from the ego of oneself when it comes to these injuries, because just as we talk about as being the community for people and hopefully being that beacon of light in a storm, I had to do that for my situation. I had to track down a surgeon here in LA, and he just happened to be on a podcast. And I met the host of the podcast, hit him up. I'm in his DMs. Hey man, what's going on? Like, kind of just asking all these questions. Now me and that guy are super cool. We've had multiple phone conversations. I was on his podcast. But I'm saying all this to say is if you're going through something, don't be afraid to seek somebody out, especially if they have direct experience with what you're going through. So putting your ego aside, because that ego is often the wall between you and where you want to go.
For
But if
sure.
you're constantly in your way of just saying, no, I'm too good for help, or I don't want to talk to anybody, or these types of things, they're going to hold you back from wherever your journey is supposed to lead you. So to summarize, ego, get it out the way. Don't be afraid to ask for help or find people who can help you. And then the second part would be to just advocate for yourself in not only the medical setting, but everyday life, because nobody's going to speak up for you like you can.
For sure. Very well said. Okay, I got two things. The
There you
first
go.
the first thing is that I was not crazy. And I realized that when I walked into the Chronic Couch episode 1 and you had 2 bags of Dr. Teals coming through, um, because again, I've talked about how heavily I've leaned on sense, and we talked about all the research that backs up how sense can help with pain. So that was really a big thing, because when you're going through something so tumultuous and painful like this, you go a little crazy sometimes because you're spending so much time, whether it's in bed or you're just in pain. So sometimes your perspective on things can get a little skewed. So that's been great. Um, and then the second thing is I have truly learned what stress can do to your body. And excuse me, that came with what I already touched on, was that all this nonsense that has been going on with my back and the nerve pain and the lack of sleep, which I'm so excited to talk about this our sleep episode and dive into that. But the lack of sleep and all the pain, um, that can manifest in other ways in your body and cause other health issues. And so then it's like whack-a-mole, and you're trying to put out all these fires. Um, So yeah, that's what I've learned, that I'm not so fucking crazy, and that, the stress of injury mixed with the stress of life, um, can lead to other bad things. And
Yes.
hitting and talking about all the things that can help: the walking, the therapies, the ice, the heat, all those things are so important. Your routine, finding a routine that works well, or not well, but is conducive with what you're going through, um, is so imperative to just to keep your eyes and your nose above water. And then
Mhm.
navigate your way to find some kind of solution to where you can come up and catch your breath, and then it's just climbing the rope and digging yourself up. um I'm not saying it's ever going to be perfect, but we're just trying to get to a point where it's tolerable and manageable, so we can, um live the fullest life we can live. And something else that we hit home, and this will be my number 3, and then I'll stop, is, and this kind of goes with what you said about ego, is acceptance. And that was probably the biggest thing for me, as I'm maneuvering around in my chair trying to get comfortable, is acceptance has been the biggest thing. Because if you're fighting accepting, hey, I'm the guy with the bad back, then you're just doing yourself a disservice. Once you can accept it and figure out, hey, I still got 2 legs, or I still can walk, or whatever your situation is. If you're in a wheelchair, which we will have my buddy on, and he'll tell us about his journey. It's finding your zest for life. It might look different, but, like we always say, there's a new sunset every day.
That's true. That's true. And the sun is metaphorically setting on this season. And as we look ahead to the sunset or the sunrise of season 2, what's the one thing you're looking forward to for next season?
I'm just excited to have guests on. I think it'll be, I think we've talked our stuff out so much, and it's been super cathartic and therapeutic. And I know our journeys aren't done, but I think it'll be great to hear other perspectives, um, and gain knowledge from other people. And I don't know, I mean, I can almost put money on it and guarantee that we're going to learn so much. Um, and I just think that, I'm just excited to keep putting the word out there that, you know, so many people are suffering and are in pain. And it's kind of frowned upon in our society, I think, still. Um, and yeah, I think, it's gonna be great. We're gonna have some really cool, interesting, knowledgeable, intelligent people on. Um, and that will just hit an even bigger audience. Um, so let's just keep this Chronic Couch community growing.
Yeah, I mean, and with guests, it's only going to do that. I think to my end of the spectrum is going to be the not only the guests themselves, because obviously you and I, we know who's on board already, but I think one of the cool things about it is going to look at the human psyche and how each of these people with these chronic injuries or chronic illnesses, how they've developed a new life and how their brain has rewired itself to adapt to their new circumstances. So for me, because that's something that I'm going through personally now with having to rewire my mind to think about, okay, Chris, flex your big toe to raise your foot. So that's a whole new ball game. And I think for me to be able to hear from people who've had to do some mental remapping or dealing with the concept of neuroplasticity, that stuff is super exciting because from a psychological standpoint, I can't be more excited. I'm already a people person, but when you take it in this realm where the human mind and the human body are or have been pushed to their limit, and seeing how people deal with that and kind of dealing with their techniques or what works for them and how they found outlets. Man, I'm excited, and just the opportunity to learn more, to meet more people, and to continue, like you said, getting the word out. Because even this season, 5 episodes, we don't have thousands of followers yet, but somehow people have found us to ask us questions, which is amazing. So continue to be that space in season 2 and beyond is the name of the game. But I mean, for me at least, my final sign off is I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been rocking with us for season 1. It has been a truly enlightening journey. I'm extremely grateful for our co-host Eric. I'm extremely grateful for the platform of the Chronic Couch, and most importantly, the community that we have built, and the fact that people out there in the world can feel as though they have a space on this couch, albeit in the DMs, to come ask us questions or hang out or support us in YouTube comments or in the DMs on Instagram. So yeah, thank you from me, and I appreciate all of the support that you've given both of us on this journey. And I'm just looking forward to more of it and bringing more people on this kind of couch. But we might have to get a bigger one soon.
Yeah, we will. I would just retweet all that, man. And thank you especially to you. Again, this this whole idea of the Chronic Couch started on this sticky note, this crumbled up sticky note right there. There it is.
That's right.
And that's when I was going through it, and I brought it to this genius, Mr. Chris. And he brought this to life. And we're gonna keep breathing life into this Chronic Couch. I agree. We're probably gonna need a bigger couch here one of these days. But in the meantime, you're recovering, I'm recovering. I think that's been the most beautiful part about this. And I think all the people listening and watching can understand is when you're recovering or you're having injury, people's patience and understanding and empathy and compassion is unwavered and unmatched. And it almost goes without saying, I think we deal with that every week. If if something's going on, we just it's not the end of the world, because all that matters is to be trying to live a happy, healthy life as best as we can. So yeah, thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone. And yeah, just everyone who's tuning in, just spread the word. And we're here to help, and you guys are also helping us. So that's where I'll drop it right there.
Exactly. That's a perfect bite drop. As you always know, obviously it's been a pleasure, obviously me and you, but for people out there, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find each of us individually on Instagram. All of that. They're, like Deion Sanders said, we ain't hard to find. So
Yeah.
you can definitely find us out here. And this isn't going to be a SNL / John Oliver 4 or 5 month hiatus by any means. So don't worry, we will be back extremely soon. But we wanted to just have a recap episode, tell everybody thank you, and give ourselves a little break as we kind of get through and figure out the logistics of how season 2 is going to work. But just know we will be seeing y'all very soon. So thank you all as always, and we will see y'all in season 2. Peace.